Welcome in. The 49ers have made some news here early on this Friday morning. They're expected to re-sign Jon Feliciano, the starting right guard. This is a big deal right now because the 49ers, they have multifold plans along the offensive line. First, they've got to solidify the floor, and they have now brought back all five starters from last season. Jon Feliciano was the one who wasn't under contract for 2024 until now. But they also potentially want to take a bigger swing to raise the ceiling of the line and build a better long-term future in the NFL draft. And the way that you do that is you make sure that all the holes are plugged before you enter the draft. So Feliciano was good for the 49ers last year. He was the number 4 graded run blocker in all of football among guards. He was actually the number 2 graded run blocker in a zone scheme of all guards, behind only Chris Lindstrom, who's actually the highest paid guard in all of football. And one thing I can guarantee you is that Jon Feliciano is not going to be the highest paid guard or anything close to it in all of football. He's going to be on a 1-year deal, and the guard market is absolutely overheating right now. You saw the Rams, for example. I've used this one a few times. You saw Jonah Jackson and Kevin Dotson sign with them, 2 guards, left and right side, for a combined cap hit of about $23 million. That's insane money for 2 guys who aren't great pass protectors. In fact, Jon Feliciano rated as a better pass protector last year than Jonah Jackson, the guard who the Rams signed to a big deal worth like, $16 million annually, I think, this year. Jon Feliciano was about number 24 in pass block grade last year from PFF. And that's out of 51 qualifying guards. And as I said, he was number 4 in run block grade. So this is a plus guard who played well for the 49ers. He apologized for the postseason social media incident where I think he was just trying to protect Colton McKivitz on social media, because it was actually Spencer Burford's fault that the 49ers missed Chris Jones on the critical play on 3rd down in overtime. And Jon Feliciano basically said, well, it wasn't Colton McKivitz's fault on social media after people were lighting into McKivitz, and that exposed Spencer Burford, because it was obviously either the right tackle or the right guard's fault. Schematically on the play, Spencer Burford should have blocked Chris Jones. He didn't. Feliciano apologized. He said he was hungover after the Super Bowl. He was taking it hard, just like a lot of 49ers fans, I'm sure. And John Lynch said at the NFL Combine, when I asked him, that Jon Feliciano was a priority re-sign. The guard market has been overheating. You want to get out there and sign guys at a bargain. And Jon Feliciano played last year for $3.5 million. I think that he'll get a little bit of a pay raise this year, but Feliciano at $5 million is a bargain compared to what like I said, Kevin Dotson and Jonah Jackson at combined cap hits of about $23 million and annual average values of $16 million. 49ers are definitely, I think, financially on the efficient side of this. So this is the 2023 depth chart. We got to go to the 49ers 2024 depth chart to add Jon Feliciano's name. I have another piece of news as well. All right, now I have that correct. The other piece of news is the 49ers have re-signed their linebacker, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, who's delivered consistently over 300 special team snaps a season for them. DFF, as they call him, has been with the team since 2019. But the big news of the morning is that the 49ers have re-signed Jon Feliciano. Right now, I had Spencer Burford slotted at the right guard position, but it's going to be Feliciano who's going to be slotted at the starter at right guard. Ben Bartch, also on the team. We could put Nick Zakelj as the backup center for now. That's going to make some room for Ben Bartch at the backup left guard position. 49ers re-signed him recently. And then we can move Spencer Burford to the backup right guard position. Jon Feliciano took that job from Burford last year. And you know what I'll tell you right now is that the Super Bowl for the 49ers went downhill after 2 injuries. On defense, it went downhill after Dre Greenlaw got hurt, and the 49ers are obviously in the market for another linebacker. The Flanagan-Fowles signing is more of a special team signing, this one right here. But the other injury that really hurt the 49ers in the Super Bowl was when Jon Feliciano hurt his elbow and went out of that game, because it was Burford who was actually playing for him at that right guard position down the stretch and in overtime, and that's when the 49ers suffered that big pass protection breakdown. So Jon Feliciano's importance to this team, I think, is underrated. I don't think enough people have been talking about how his injury adversely impacted the 49ers. But again, the metrics do not lie. He was the number 2 zone blocking run guard in football last year behind only Chris Lindstrom. Is the number 4 graded run blocking guard, period. And he was about number 24 in pass block grade last season. I think the pass blocking efficiency might have even been a little bit better than that, but I'll look it up. The 49ers right guard has been a trouble spot for this team for years. Jon Feliciano has actually been the best right guard they've had in the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era. This is something that went from, I mean, Mike Person was the guard in 2019 in the Super Bowl, and I think he was playing hurt. He really struggled in that game. That obviously scuttled the 49ers. But then you move forward to the 2020 season when they even played Colton McKivitz at right guard as a rookie that year, and that was ugly. It wasn't good for the 49ers in that season. Finally, Spencer Burford showed up in the 2022 season as a rookie, and I think he's developed a bit. I think that the 49ers have liked what he's done in the run game as far as moving forward that way, but I think that the pass protection has really been lacking at that right guard position. And this is something you could even go back to 2017 when Brandon Fusco was this team's right guard. It has been porous on that side. Right guard and right tackle have both struggled in pass protection for the 49ers. I've been talking for years about the need to improve that side of the line. And if we're being 100% honest, Jon Feliciano has given the 49ers above average pass protection at right guard and really good run blocking. There was a fear going back to Feliciano's initial signing with the 49ers last year that he wouldn't fit into the system, right? Because this is a guy that never really had played in the type of zone blocking run scheme that the 49ers so prevalently use. But they looked at his tape, they looked at his body type, they looked at some of the athleticism that he had put on tape prior to his time with the 49ers, and they made the projection. And they said, we think that he can fit. And the 49ers were right. So they were able to get a player at a good price who, I mean, just on the surface, you wouldn't be sure if he had fit into your system because he hadn't played it before. And they're able to take that price, plug it into the equation, and Jon Feliciano gave them good football. I mean, nothing speaks louder than that run blocking grade. Top 5 run blocking grade for a guy that, possibly wouldn't have fit into your running system. Well, Jon Feliciano obviously was able to do that. And this is a nice signing for the 49ers because when you look at improving this offensive line on the larger scale, we're talking about bigger, higher ceiling swing. We're talking about longer term improvement. The NFL draft is going to have to be the 49ers' answer. And the only way to have a legitimate shot at really nailing the draft in terms of O-line is to make sure that you have all your holes plugged at an acceptable floor entering the draft. So with Jon Feliciano, the 49ers have set an acceptable floor at that right guard position. Moving forward, you can now take the bigger swing to get that ceiling higher at the right guard and at the right tackle position. You've got Colton McKivitz under contract this season and the next. That's your floor at right tackle, but they're paying Colton McKivitz swing tackle money. I think he would be ideal at that swing tackle position. Kind of like Daniel Brunskill a few years ago, right? He was starting every single season for the 49ers. He's another one of the right guards that's come through this Shanahan era. But we always said that Daniel Brunskill would be a better number 6 offensive lineman, a better swing offensive lineman, somebody that could plug in at any spot on a backup basis than as a starter. And I think that you could say the same thing about Colton McKivitz. I think he'd be a better swing offensive lineman than a starter. Jon Feliciano, he's a good intermediary starter for 1-year deals at a time. Until if he keeps on playing the way that he did last year, then, the 49ers had won the Super Bowl, for example. I think that causes value increases for all your players in free agency who are actually eligible for those new contracts. I think if they would have had won, there might be a multi-year deal for him somewhere. That's how well he played for the 49ers last year. For them, luckily enough, they're able to get him on another 1-year contract, and that sets a very nice floor at that right guard position. And now they could look toward the draft. What can they do in the draft? Well, there's somebody like Graham Barton from Duke. I've talked about him a lot. He's played all of the positions, but he projects as somebody that can learn under a player like Feliciano at right guard. maybe even plug in at right guard if needed over the course of the season. And then eventually he could even potentially take over the reins at center. They can also try to swing bigger for that right tackle position because obviously Trent Williams is 35 years old on the left side. So if you're trying to upgrade the right side where Colton McKivitz, I think, is more of swing tackle material, you can look for that in the draft. Maybe you have to trade up a little bit in the first round, but there's like 6-7 first round ready prospects according to the evaluators and the analysts in the first round for tackle. So you could look to see if somebody falls to you at that tackle spot, or just moderately trade up, grab a tackle that you like, try to improve that right tackle position. It might take a little while because guys as rookies sometimes struggle. So that's why you've got the floor there with McKivitz. And then ultimately you think about flipping that guy to the left side because Trent Williams probably won't play forever. And I say probably because it's possible that Trent Williams plays forever, because Trent Williams is still playing as the best lineman in football, even at age 35. But this was a necessary move for the 49ers offensive line. You can see how it stands right now. Williams, Banks, Brendel, Feliciano, McKivitz. I mean, you could improve the left guard position. You could improve center. Right guard, I think, is as good as it's going to be for the 2024 season. Again, Feliciano was a solid player last year. They just needed him to stay healthy in the Super Bowl. And obviously, you can improve right tackle. I always encourage people to look at the offensive line as a unit of not just 5 players, but a unit potentially of up to, I have 9 right here, but they probably won't carry 9 on the 53 man. One of these guys is going to be the odd man out. They typically carry 8 on the 53 man. I look at it as a unit of at least 7, possibly 8 guys, and you want quality in all of those spots. It doesn't mean that you need to have starting caliber quality in all those spots. In fact, that's impossible with what's happening right now in the NFL, with the proliferation of defensive linemen outpacing the proliferation of offensive linemen. But you do need at least 7 capable bodies to win a Super Bowl, because guys are going to get hurt. And the 49ers found that out the hard way last year. They've known this for years. Guys get hurt. So that's why they're trying to cultivate depth in the O-line room. But to make it through the marathon of an NFL season, you absolutely need more than 5 linemen. And that's why I think the 49ers can turn to the draft to raise the ceiling of right tackle, and why, somebody like Colton McKivitz can be a flex player, somebody who has started for you, but also somebody that can be that key 6th man, because you need a 6th man, you need a 7th man, you need guys coming off the bench on the offensive line to be able to withstand the marathon of a season. They like Zakelj. They like Zakel's brain. They think that he can be potentially the heir apparent at center. He's Brock Purdy's roommate. I don't know if he's Brock Purdy's roommate anymore now, since Brock Purdy got married this past weekend. But for the first 2 seasons, Zakelj has been Brock Purdy's roommate. Obviously, you've got Ben Bartch, who the 49ers poached off of Jacksonville's practice squad. He actually suffered a big-time knee injury a couple years ago, and I don't think he's fully been himself. The 49ers think that Bartch has a nice ceiling, and maybe he could eventually take over one of the guard spots. Remember, Aaron Banks is going to be entering his final season under contract for the 49ers, drafted in 2021. So he's already been with the team for 3 years, season number 4 coming. They've got to think about a left guard succession plan. They've got to think about a left tackle succession plan just due to Williams' age. Obviously, right guard, they have to think into the future as well, since Feliciano is only under contract now for a year. And Jake Brendel signed a 3-year deal. So this is going to be the second of that 3rd year. But center has always been a premium position in Kyle Shanahan's system. So you always have to be thinking about restocking this offensive line. And I think that the 49ers are following a very logical plan with how to do it. Because one thing I'll tell you, and this is something that bears repeating since I'm talking about the offensive line right now, the market is completely skewed. It's different on O-line and D-line, which is why you've seen the 49ers sign new defensive linemen. I have the new additions highlighted in teal. The only outside free agents that have come in have been along the defensive line. First off, the 49ers defense slid big time this year from 1 to 12 in EPA per play. The defensive line was disappointing. So they're overhauling this unit. You've seen this overhaul. It makes total sense. They fired Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator. It also makes sense that they've done that to the defensive line at this point in time, free agency, because there's so many defensive linemen. It's created such a high supply. That's kind of the position where there are a lot of capable bodies around the league. You can get those guys at a relative discount. The cap hit for Yetur Gross-Matos, for example, is only about $3.3 million this year. We're still waiting on Leonard Floyd contract details, but they're able to acquire Malik Collins in a trade from Houston for only 8.47 million cap hit this season. Yeah, it was 8.47. I did the calculations the other day. So they got cheaper on the defensive line, and they think they're going to be more effective this year because they weren't very good overall last year. I mean, there's availability issues. Obviously, Eric Armstead is now in Jacksonville. That was going to cost the 49ers $18 million this year. Instead, they're paying those $8 million for Malik Collins. Jordan Elliott, we'll see what the deal, the details on his deal are, but I'm assuming it's not going to be a cap hit of over $4 million for this season. So they're able to get cost efficiency on the defensive line. That would not have been possible through big-time free agent signings on the offensive line. When somebody like Robert Hunt, the biggest fish of them all for that right guard position, went for $20 million annually to Carolina, you know that the offensive line, because of supply and demand, because there's so many more good defensive linemen than offensive linemen out there right now, that offensive price went way higher. You saw it with the Rams as well, right? Kevin Dotson, $16 million per year. I think Jonah Jackson was around $16 million per year. Those are just numbers that weren't efficient for the 49ers. So they're saying free agency is for the D-line, the draft is for the O-line, and then you pick up whatever bargain exceptions there are to those rules. And thankfully for the 49ers, Jon Feliciano was one of the bargain exceptions. We have other news. The 49ers, to get under the salary cap, had to restructure another contract, and they restructured Javon Hargrave's contract. So I'm going to explain a couple things about the salary cap right now. First, we have to find Javon Hargrave's contract, which we have spotted right here. So here you go. This was first posted on Over the Cap. So you've got Javon Hargrave at a $9.3 million cap hit here in 2024. That had previously been upwards of $15 million. What the 49ers did is they took his base salary, which was, I think, $8.85 million, and reduced it to the veteran minimum, converted it to signing bonus, and then stretched it out over 5 years of the contract. You will hear some people on the internet saying, this is a bad idea. Those people do not know what they're talking about. They pretend like they know the salary cap, but they don't understand how it works. Why don't they understand how it works? Well, it might be a bad idea. You can make an argument that it is if they had added another void year and stretched this money out even further. Because, yes, I get Hargrave is an older player. He's on the wrong side of 30. You add another void year, you create potential cap acceleration issues if you do cut him, and when he inevitably does hit the end of his deal in 2026. But they didn't add another void year. The 49ers had already put in, you can only prorate these bonuses. You can only stretch them out like an accordion over the salary cap over the course of a 5-year window. Well, the 49ers had already put in an option bonus that kicked in 2024, this season, at the time of the original deal. So this option bonus for $6 million that they put in there, it had already been stretching out over the salary cap to 2028. So they didn't need to add another void year. All they had to do with this restructure, which is a conversion of base salary to the signing bonus, not to be confused with the pay cut, all they had to do was stretch it out over 5 years within the window that had already been created last year. So all the 49ers are doing, they got to pay this money to Javon Hargrave regardless. All the 49ers are doing is choosing to take the cap hits at a later date when the salary cap will be larger because it grows every single season. So this is like a zero interest credit card. If you had a credit card where you could buy something and not have to pay for it until 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line with zero interest at a time when you presumably would have more money in the future, then of course you would do it, especially if inflation is going to be helping you out, right? If there's inflation and the purchase price for you is better right now because that price is going to go up a little bit later, you'd rather make the purchase now and take the zero interest on it over time. That's exactly what the 49ers are doing with Javon Hargrave here. They didn't add void years. They're not kicking the can down the road. What they're doing is choosing when to pay the cap bill, and they're reallocating that money. They're reshuffling it around. They're going to have to pay it anyway at some point during the next 5 years. They said, hey, we're going to pay this I think they saved 6.4 million. We're going to pay this 6.4 million a little bit later, and we're going to open up cap space for this 2024 season. The 49ers, now this is the next thing. They needed this restructure. They needed to save the $6 million in cap space to open up enough room to operate right now. This is over the cap. They did a great job. As you can see, the 49ers cap space is about $2 million. Without the $6 million saved by reshuffling, doing the financial Tetris of this Javon Hargrave contract, the 49ers would be over the cap, and you're not allowed to be over the cap. Ironically, the website's name is Over the Cap, but they are now under the cap by about $2 million. Now, this gets a little bit more complex. The 49ers actually will have more money to work with this season, a lot more money to work with, and I'll explain it really briefly right here as we go to our 49ers salary cap sheet. Look at this. Oh my God, the 49ers 2024 salary cap report. $39.7 million in space. Where's that coming from? Well, here's where it comes from. Because the 49ers designated Eric Armstead for a post-June 1st release, they don't get the $18 million in savings until after June 1st. But the way that I do my accounting here, since Over the Cap already does such a great job with their sheet, I look at the salary cap using in-season budgeting, which means in the offseason, only the top 51 contracts count against the salary cap. During the regular season, it is everybody counts against the salary cap. 53-man roster, practice squad, dead money, whatever. The offseason is different, but I think that it's important to project to the regular season. So what I do is I project a 53-man roster, and I put players on that 53-man roster and their cap hits. And then I also include the savings they're going to get from Eric Armstead, because when they cut down to the 53-man roster, the Armstead savings will be there. And I've calculated that the 49ers have 45 players right now that will probably make the 53-man. I'm probably going to have to add Demetrius Flanagan-Foles here in a second, but we don't have his contract details yet. We don't have Feliciano's contract details yet either. But with 45 players, the 49ers and Eric Armstead savings accounted for, the 49ers have about $40 million in cap space. This is good for the 49ers because the draft class is going to take some money to pay. The savings for Armstead are going to be available at that time. And then whatever the 49ers don't use, and there is money here to potentially use, and they could backload contracts right now to get under the top 51 limit. They could sign somebody like Justin Simmons if they decide that they can get him at a decent price, a star safety. But whatever the 49ers don't use here in 2024 can be carried over into this 2025, where the 49ers are trying to amass cap room so they can pay Brock Purdy. So any salary cap discussion, do not let people that don't know about the salary cap, that have no idea what they're talking about, do not let those kind of people act like they know these numbers, because they don't. This is the stuff that matters. You have to project forward into 2025, and you have to realize that restructures are ways of shuffling money around between these seasons so that the 49ers have enough room to pay Brock Purdy in 2025. And as you could see, since I've actually done the math here, the 49ers are in solid position. The Eric Armstead release is going to save them quite a bit of money. They just can't touch that money until after June 1st. So $39.7 million for the 49ers right now in calculated salary cap space for 2024. And you move forward into 2025, $36.2 million. But I only project 29 players right now in that 53. So a lot of work to do. Every dollar does matter. That's why the 49ers asked Kyle Juszczyk to take a pay cut. He did. That helped them get under the top 51 cap. That helped them get under this one right here, because as far as offseason accounting goes, 49ers are up against the limit. So they may have to do another restructure or two if they want to sign a bigger name, or they can severely backload a contract so that way it can fit under the cap right now until they get that boost from the Eric Armstead money that's going to come after June 1st. So really interesting stuff. I'm going to write a big article about this. It is indeed financial Tetris. It's probably more complicated than it ever has been. And I know that I try to outline it for you every year with my article on The Athletic. And then I take some of those ideas, I put them in these videos. Probably easier to explain all that through writing, because I can make the charts and I can show you how the 49ers are moving this money around. But it is a very important part of how they're operating. Anyway, those of you just joining on this morning, 49ers have re-signed Jon Feliciano. I actually was able to put him into this 53-man roster projection and the depth chart. I haven't been able to put Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles in there yet, though. So why don't we go ahead and do that right now? We'll put DFF as the second reserve right here. Now, I think the 49ers are still in the market for a veteran linebacker. This is obviously the position where they signed Eric, or they agreed to terms with Eric Kendricks and planned to sign Eric Kendricks. They weren't able to bring him aboard, though, because he decided to sign with the Cowboys instead. But I do think that with Greenlaw potentially starting the season on PUP, you do have room for another veteran linebacker on here, and then you figure out what to do as the season progresses. They have carried 6 before. 5 is the standard number, but we'll see how they insulate that room. All right, big news. 49ers re-signed Feliciano. That's very important to the floor of their offensive line. Now they could start to take some bigger swings in the NFL draft. Everybody, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great Friday. We'll talk to you when the next news hits. Oh, we got more news. Hold on. Mike is sending me some stuff. I'm not leaving yet. Oh, wow. We got a lot of news that just came in. Jon Feliciano. Oh, wow. This might be the last year for Jon. Okay. Stand back, everybody. Don't leave. This might be the last year, because Jon Feliciano just posted on Instagram one last ride with the 49ers. I'm going to actually share this with you, put this up on the screen. I'm so happy that I decided to not end this show, because we've got stuff to talk about now. Let's find this picture of Feliciano and get it up on the screen. Here it is. There you go. This is Jon Feliciano's Instagram post. Last ride, entering year 10. So he wants to go back out and try to win a Super Bowl one last season with the 49ers. So also, he might have been worth a multi-year deal, but maybe he wouldn't have taken one if he was always planning for this to be his last season. We've got some more news, too. The 49ers are working toward an agreement to bring back veteran wide receiver Chris Conley on a one-year deal. So 49ers expect it to re-sign wide receiver Chris Conley. Get this on the screen for you. Boom. There's Feliciano on Instagram. Chris Conley is expected to come. And the 49ers have restructured the contract of George Kittle, also creating close to $10 million in 2024 cap space. So this is big right now. So George Kittle and that restructure will, let me put this on the bottom. The George Kittle restructure will move the 49ers to about $12 million off-season space, which tells me that they're ready to make a larger move. Because if you got remember, you're getting $18 million more once June 2nd rolls around. You've just got to survive until June 2nd, because that's when the Armstead post-June 1st money comes in. The fact that they were able to get under the cap with Javon Hargrave's restructure, and now they're creating $10 million more with George Kittle's restructure, means that the 49ers can potentially take a bigger swing. That's a big deal. So I'm going to keep you updated. You better hit that notification button right now. $10 million more created through George Kittle's restructure is a big, big deal that signals that the 49ers are going to get to work here very soon. So you can get excited. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you very soon.